everyone, this is EllyMae with Silhouette Secrets Plus, and I am going to do my first cuts with the new Curio 2. Now, I will throw a link up in the description below to the Curio unboxing. You are going to want to watch that first because I share some tips about the entire process as well as getting started with your electrostatic mat. I also wanted to mention in the Curio unboxing, you're going to see the instructions on how to unpackage your Curio machine. Take the little baggie that the blade and everything came in, and it has the little disclaimers for your Bluetooth. Put those screws and those brackets back in there. I should have thought of this for the unboxing video, but it wasn't until later that I thought of it. Put those back in there and keep those. And as I recommended, keep your box if at all possible, just in case you do have to send it back. So you could throw this in the box as well and have it handy for if you ever need to package your machine up, if you are going to be doing a move or taking it to teach classes like I possibly could. You will want to put those brackets back on to protect your housing from moving and shifting while it's being sent or moved in your car, whatever. So I just wanted to mention that. So I'm going to set that aside for now. So what I'm going to do is this video is going to cover my first cuts with the electrostatic mat. Now I do have several supplies that I will be testing. I ordered some art tissue paper, and I will throw the links up in the description below. I'll have additional information out as I test these materials. I ordered some tracing paper. And then I ordered a pack of vellum, which is 93 GSM. So this is what I'm actually going to be testing on. It's also what I demonstrated on with the Curio unboxing. So make sure to check out the description of this video below for all the details, because there are very, very specific details. The first one is if you are a new machine owner for a Curio 2, a Cameo 5, or a Portrait 4, you will need to update the studio software directly from the Silhouette website, and you will need to use a version of software that supports the machine. Now, depending on when you're watching this, that information can change, but you will have to use a version of 4.5.735 or higher. I'm going to include all the information in the description below because that will be rolling out and it is going to change and be updated soon. If you're new watching this and it's right when it's released and the only version available to you is 4.5.735, you will need a USB cord to connect to the machine the first time. They are rolling that out, and that's why I'm putting information in the description below. It is a Bluetooth enabled machine, and I'm going to see if my software will pick it up. I am currently using a beta version that is being tested, which should be pushed out and released very, very soon after I record this video. But it's also going to depend on when you're watching this video. So let's take a look. I'm going to jump into the Silhouette Studio software, and I'm going to show you on the Silhouette website where you need to look for those updates. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go out to the Silhouette website, SilhouetteAmerica.com, and then I am going to click at the top for software and get software. Now, in the future, after I record this video, you are going to find the current version right here at the top. Once my whole page loads, right here at the top, this is where you're going to see the current version. As I record this, the current version does not support the new machines, but it will soon. So that's why I want to put all the information in the description so you have the best information and it's updated. Right now, you can click on Learn More, and this is where you can download either a legacy version, which for the new machines you will not be able to use currently, or you can download the beta version. So I'm going to click on Download Beta Versions. It's going to tell me 4.5.735. If you click on the release notes, it's going to tell you that it is for the current machines. Well, it should. They don't have all the notes in there as I'm recording this video. So under that beta version, you're going to click download. So it's going to download to your computer and you're going to need to install that. Again, I have a beta version that's currently out that we're testing to connect by Bluetooth. So we're going to cross our fingers and we're going to see if it works. I received this machine, I've done the unboxing, and I'm now recording my first cuts all in the same few hours. So let's go back to the Silhouette Studio software. Now, if you do not know how to check what version you are currently on a Windows computer, it is under Help at the top and About Silhouette Studio. That is going to tell you the information that we ask when we ask this question is for the 4.5.738. All of those numbers are very important. So on a Mac, it's in the top left corner under Silhouette Studio and About. That's where you're going to find the information. If you are not using a version of 4.5.735 or higher, you will not be able to connect to the machines. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to come over here and do is I am going to, on my page setup panel, which is the panel that opens up first, I'm going to click here on the machine, number 1, machine. And what that is going to show me is these new machines that have been released. So I have a Cameo 5, a Cameo 5 Plus, Portrait 4, and the Curio 2 are now showing in my list. I'm going to click on the Curio 2. Now, I will say this. I connected to a Cameo 5 at the Silhouette Summit by USB cord. So that is most likely why my software is seeing that. For you, you need to power the machine on. So I'm going to hold the power button down for 3 seconds. It's going to power up that housing. Make sure you have clearance. You don't want that housing to get stuck on anything. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the Bluetooth button. It's going to turn blue. It is currently flashing. So we're going to see if I can get connected by Bluetooth. So I'm going to choose the Curio 2. And then it's giving me my options. So for the Curio 2, what you see on the screen is the electrostatic mat that I have on it. So you're going to see, if I zoom out here, you can see it gives me kind of a diagram of this entire machine. If I do the fit to page at the top, fit to window, it's going to zoom in on this 12 by 12 cuttable area. On the right in my page setup panel, I have the auto electrostatic bed selected, and I have the auto sheet protector sheet only selected. So you want to make sure that all of your settings match. Now I'm just going to simply go out to my library and I'm going to choose a design. And I really, you should start out with a very basic design. So we could start out cutting a circle. That's probably what I should do because that's what I'm going to recommend to you. So let's go back here to the design and we'll come back and pick a design here in a second. So I'm just going to come over to the drawing tools on the left-hand side and I'm going to choose the draw ellipse. And this machine is big, so it's getting in the way of me trying to draw. Okay, so I just drew a simple circle. And we're going to see how this cuts. I'm going to place it on my mat, and I'm actually going to change my media size to letter because that is what I'm currently using. And I'm going to turn on the show cut border. That's going to give me the outside edges of my materials. Now I'm going to come back over here to the machine and I need to set the machine up. If you watch the Curio unboxing, I went through how to set up this electrostatic mat. It is going to take practice. So you have your electrostatic protective sheet. You need to use this and do not supplement anything else with it because if you cut through this and damage your electrostatic mat, you will need to replace the mat entirely. It will not work. It will not bring up that charge. So I'm going to click over here on my button to turn it on. To turn on the electrostatic mat, you push this button. It's going to change to bright white. Bright white means on, light white means off. You're going to have to look at it very, very closely. And we did give them feedback on that. So I'm going to turn it on. And the longer it sits on here, the better the charge is going to build up. So it's not going to be immediate as soon as you set it down. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get it centered on there, and then you want to smooth this out. And I'm working backwards. I actually need to lower this a bit because it is a big machine. So I'm going to smooth this out. You don't want any bubbles in it. So I see a bubble there. I'm going to try to smooth that out. And you need to have a good charge. Now, before I go too much farther, I do want to go over the blade installation again because that is very, very important part. You are not going to have successful cuts if you do not have it installed properly. So I'm simply going to take this out. When you first get your machine, it's going to be closed. The tool that matches has a number on it. So this one goes in tool housing 1 or carriage 1. I'm going to pull out the locking tab on the front. I'm going to slide my blade in all the way, push down on the front. I lift up a little bit on this locking clip and then I push it in. You want to make sure there's absolutely no gap and that those hooks on the front of the lock have grabbed that blade. There can be no gap or it is going to cut too deep. It is very, very important. So while we did that, it has built up this charge. So now I'm going to take my sheet of vellum. Now these are my first cuts. You want to make sure that your vellum is completely flat. And so you want to, no curls, no wrinkles, no folds. It has to be completely flat to maintain that charge. So we're going to try it on this side. See how it does. If you watch my unboxing, my paper kind of curled due probably to humidity. And the first sheet I pulled out of the box was curled on the out of the package was curled on the very edges because it had been in shipping, it had been damaged. So it wasn't going to hold that charge. You really need to have it as smooth as possible. Textured paper and things like that is not going to work. Now let's see. So I'm trying to move this. The edges down here are kind of don't feel like or look like they have that charge. So I'm just going to stay away from those very edges. But let's see how this might work. So we're going to send a simple cut to start. So I just want to make sure that that's held in place. I can't move that. Okay. So that charge is there. Now, if you saw my unboxing, if you try to super Hulk strength it, it's going to move. I mean, it can only hold so much. You are stronger than electrostatic electricity on a 12 by 12 square. So you just want to make sure it's completely flat and make sure it's not going to move. If you have a sharp blade and the right cut settings, then it should be a crisp cut. Cross our fingers. That's what we're hoping for. So I have a simple circle. Let's jump back over into the software. I'm going to go to the Send tab. And then I need to come down here to the bottom right. And I need to, it does not look like it's connected. And that's okay. It's scanning for devices. And there it is. So I had to first go to the Send tab, and then I had to be patient, just a few seconds while it connected. It is connecting by Bluetooth. Bluetooth works from your computer to your machine. That's it. It talks between the two devices. I'll throw up a link on Bluetooth connections. The Bluetooth in the new machines, Curio 2, Cameo 5, and Portrait 4 have been updated. They listened. They tried to improve it. So test that. See if it works for you. Hardwire is always a good connection as well, but some people don't like the cords, which I understand, especially for a machine like this. It may need to be away from your computer. So Curio 2 has shown up. It shows as available. I need to select that. When I select it, it's going to change to connecting. And I have this little machine icon. that is down there. Now, it also tells me right off the bat that there's a firmware update available. This is normal because machines are manufactured months in advance, and there may be updates since then. That is the firmware. It is the firmware on the machine directly. So I'm going to choose Update Now, and you will need an internet connection to update firmware. So it's telling me, do not switch the Curio 2 off. And it should, depending on your internet connection, it should do this fairly quickly. Now, my studio where I'm recording is a little bit of ways from my router. So it may take mine a little bit longer than normal. Okay, so moving it closer to the internet connection didn't prompt it. And I am going to keep this in the video because there's going to be somebody else who has the same issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this in by USB, and I'm going to see if, since the base doesn't move, I just need to keep the cord away from the housing. So I'm going to plug it in to my computer by USB. I'm going to turn off the Bluetooth, and I'm going to plug in the USB on this side. I'm going to see if this makes any difference, and then I'll be reporting this back. Again, it's new. So I'm just going to make sure that is in there. It's connected. Okay, it's searching and trying to reconnect because I turned the Bluetooth off. Now, let's see what happens. That should be in there. It is scanning again. I'll see if it shows up. It's not. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to unplug this. I'm going to make sure I'm putting it in correctly. Okay, I did not have it in all the way. So now I can already hear it. It says USB. It says as soon as I got it all the way connected, that USB cable needs to be pushed in a little tougher than most machines. But make sure to get it securely in there. It says a Curio 2 has been detected. Would you like to make this your active machine? Yes. So now it's telling me firmware update available, and I'm going to try it again by USB connection. Again, firmware updates are going to be internet dependent as well. I am in my room. The internet signal is low. I pushed it anyhow to see if it would work. It could be that my internet was not strong enough to complete it the first time, and then that held it up. So I want to make sure to show you how I'm working through the troubleshooting that I'm encountering as well, because I'm sure somebody else is going to encounter it. So it's once again telling me, do not switch off the Curio 2. What that tells me is that the first firmware update, when I went to process it, did not finish. It did not work right. So I'm going to give this some time. I gave the first one a lot of time, but I want to include this in the video because users are going to experience this as well. And it worked. Okay, so if you do encounter a problem, that is how to work through it. I connected through a USB. You can use, it's a standard USB cord. It is not included in the box. I'm sure as we go along, this process will be improved and it will be updated. I will be reporting that as something that I encountered, but that is how to work through it. So once the USB connection was established, then it was able to process that firmware completely and correctly. Then I knew my machine was ready because it restarted, moved that housing again, and then it shows in my software as ready. So since I had a little bit of a delay there, I am keeping it in the video, but I want to make sure, okay, this is still, okay, the electrostatic bed was turned off. The light was light. It was not bright. It was light. So that means the bed was off. However, it still kept the charge because I didn't move anything, because I didn't lift it off. It still kept that charge. So I cannot move this paper. Now we're going to cross our fingers again, and we are going to do the first cut. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to select, I'm going to choose vellum, I think, if it's in the software. Vellum is in the software, and it says a blade depth of 1, which I think is this is a pretty good test for this. It does say force of 19, so I'm going to cross my fingers. Something to mention, while you do not want to cut through the protective sheet, which I think will be very difficult to do because of the plastic and the durability that it is, you will still see cut lines in the protective mat as you are cutting, just like you do with a cutting mat. That was evident at the Silhouette Summit in the demos. As long as you're not digging into the protective mat or cutting into your electrostatic mat, you'll be okay. That is perfectly normal. So let's cross our fingers, and I'm going to click send. First cuts. Okay, now it's also telling me I have options. Curio 2 is ready. Load vellum, I've done that. Load an auto blade, done that. Auto thickness detection enabled. I'll cover that in another video. Let's see, it's disabled. Let's try this. Please follow step 1 and then use the manual controls on the Curio 2. Okay, I think I need to move this down and move my tool housing on top of the material and click send. And then what it should do is it's going to auto detect. I hadn't planned to show that in this video. Auto detect the material thickness, which is going to be very, very thin. And it walks you through instructions. Okay, so I'm going to click next. It says next, use the arrows below or corresponding arrows on your machine to position carriage 1 above your chosen area. So if you're using anything that is clear or glossy or transparent clear, we saw this with the acrylic etching, you will need to place a piece of tape or a piece of paper over top of it because the camera won't be able to, or the optical eye won't be able to see it. So next, once you've loaded your media, you can proceed to load your tools. I've done that. I'm going to click next. Press the down arrow. The bar will move to the front of the machine. Okay. And the ghost just opened my door. I'm following the instructions on screen. Oh. Load the auto blade. Okay, it tells me how to load the auto blade. Secure the auto blade. I can exit the mode by pressing the pause button, which is not lit up. So let's just pretend I did that. It's still not lit up. Okay, so I'm going to have to play with that feature. I am just going to move my housing back to the location it should be. And I'm going to disable. Again, I'm learning this machine just like you are. So I'm going to disable that. We should be okay because it's the thin material like it's supposed to. I'm going to click send. Okay, it is doing the auto detection, even though I disabled it. It's going to adjust the blade. As I mentioned in my unboxing video, it is a little bit slower. It does have a robot kind of sound to it. Okay, so it did the cut. I can see the cut. What I want to show you is how and why this electrostatic mat is important. So the reason the electrostatic mat is a new feature and why everybody's so excited about it is these thin materials would be problematic when cutting on a adhesive sticky mat. When you go to remove it or even while cutting it, it just doesn't work as well. So what we're going to do is when the cut is finished, it actually turns off the electrostatic mat. So you want to make note of that. Again, light white is off, bright white is on. However, as we've already experienced, the electrostatic charge is still there. I can't move, I can kind of move it now. Okay, so what I can do is I'm actually just going to remove the protective sheet. And then what you're going to see is that charge is still built up there. But I have my paper, no curling, no tearing, it's there. And then my pieces easily slide off once that charge is released. So I have a circle. Now, let's put this to the test. Now that I've got all those little things out of the way, I'm going to put this back on. And I can see, you will not be able to see it. I can see the circle, but I cannot feel the circle. So I'm going to put this back on, press the button, bright white, it's on. I'm going to give it a second. I'm going to get my next sheet of paper. So it's absolutely flat, no curls, no tears, and smooth this out. And then I'm going to pick a little bit more intricate of a design. So this is not moving. Place my vellum down on it, and I will link the exact material I'm using in the description so you know what I'm using. If you want to test it with the same, you could, if you can source it through my link. Okay. Okay. I can still I feel like the corner there is not completely secure. If you feel and you want to do it, you can tape it down to the electrostatic, the protective sheet. It's not necessary unless you're having issues, but I feel the corners of my paper is a little bit damaged from shipping, and that is probably why I feel that way. So just something to mention, because if that charge gets released, your paper's going to shift. So let's go back over to the software. I'm going to click on the design tab. I'm going to delete my circle, and let's come out here. Now, I want a little bit more of an intricate design, but I don't want to go too wild because that will take a while to cut. So let's choose one, and I'm just selecting something kind of on the fly. It's not planned. These all seem very, very intricate, which means that they will take longer to cut, which is not what you want to see on the video. I can speed up the cut so you're not having to watch it near as much. So let's just find a design. So let me pick a design and we'll come back. Okay, so I think I'm going to pick this for the next one, and then I'll get into even more intricate ones that I will post photos of. But flowers, this is several different shapes of flowers. It has curves, it has points. So let's take this and then I can put it together as a flower. So I'm going to double click on it to bring it onto my design mat. And I am going to need to either rearrange these. So I'm going to right click and choose ungroup. And I'm going to rearrange them. I do want to be mindful a bit, just from my own experience with cutting materials. I want to be mindful of staying away from the edges too much, where the blade could catch and it could release that charge. So if you're really nervous about it, you could tape your materials down in those areas if you want to have it be held. I'm going to go with it. This is what it's designed for, so I want to see what it's going to do. And you're going to see it on camera. So I'll just rotate these just a little bit. And then I'm going to click send. And all of my settings are still in there. I'm going to make sure that nothing is next to the edge, especially in this bottom corner here, just because I feel like it is not secure, but that's the paper, not the mat. So I'm going to click send. Now this, it does have a speed of 6. You can play with it and see how that will cut. Of course, the cut settings that are preset in the Silhouette software are for when using a sticky mat. So what I might do is cross your fingers. Vellum can only be maxed out at a cut of 10. So let's give it a try. I'm going to click send. I did disable, it says, it looks like the auto detect is still enabled. It gives me an option to disable it. So we'll just go with it. And it's going to go to cut. So it's doing the auto detection for the thickness, and it does have a noise to it. Now, that is something that we couldn't hear at Summit because we were in a very loud conference room. You'll get used to it. It's not loud when cutting, and it is faster. It actually sounds better, faster than when I did that first cut at a slow speed of 6. You see how the housing is moving. You are going to want to keep those channels clear, and I will need to take a closer look at the machine and see if there's any way that you can get in there or see or try to get stuff out if something falls in it. The best method is to keep your machine clean and to not let anything get in those channels. It is a moving part on the machine, or the housing is a moving part in that channel. But I am talking, now I do have a microphone, but I am talking over the machine too. So it's not quite as loud, say, as compared to the Cameo 4. The housing moving up and down is a little bit noisier. So again, you're seeing my first cuts, my first connection. I did have some issues. I will report those. Other users are going to have issues too, so keep it in the video. Real life happens. And I will not speed up this video. This is going to be in real time just because I want you to see how it's cutting this particular design at the speed of a 10. Okay, now here comes the test. So if I look at this, my design is millimeters from the very edge of the paper. So keep that in mind. It was very, very close, which is exactly what it shows on the screen. So electrostatic mat turns off after the cut is done. So I am simply going to release the charge on this paper. And here is the cut. Now, of course, your clean cuts are going to be dependent on your blade and your settings. So I just simply chose the vellum setting and I crossed my fingers and it worked. I did increase the speed and it's a brand new blade. So those settings are going to work. But you're going to want to keep that in mind when you're cutting. The more you use your blade, the more it's going to dull. When you're cutting on materials such as this that's really thin, now paper dulls blades differently than other materials, but you are going to be able to see that your blade is going to dull as you use it, and you may need to increase the settings. This is awesome. No sticky residue, no curling, no tearing. Look at this. That electrostatic charge has been broken, and I have all of these pieces. Now I can put this flower together. Vellum, you could color it with inks and then curl the edges and put that together. Okay, now if you're still with me, I could just do another video, but I think I just want to, let's pick something else. Let's see what works. Okay, I'm going to turn on this electrostatic mat. I know the video gets long, but it's either that or I make a whole new video showing an intricate cut. And I kind of just want to play. So let's do this. Electrostatic charge. The mat isn't moving. I already feel the charge. That is the other thing that was brought up at Summit. The longer the machine is on, that charge has time to build. So give it some time. Give it some time to create that charge. And I can already feel my paper is secure just by setting it down there. So I'm just going to smooth this out. Make sure you don't have any debris underneath it. Okay. I'm going to smooth that out. Give it some time. Now I'm going to jump back to the software, and picking a design is probably the hardest part for me. It takes me the most time. So I'm just going to simply pick this flower because it's right here in front of my face. I'm going to pick, it's a flower by Wild Pilot, and we're going to see how this cuts. So one more time, a intricate design. So I am going to move this flower off. I can delete it. And then let's cut this one. And why don't we shrink it down a little bit? I'll fill it with color so you can see it on the screen. Let's shrink it down. Let's test this out. So I'm going to make 2 copies. So I'm going to hold my Alt key down and make a copy. And then we'll cut this one a little bit bigger. And what I'm going to do is I am going to speed up the video so you don't have to watch this whole thing cut out. And then we will see, I'll come back at the end, and we can see exactly how this turned out. So this is exactly what I do when I'm testing. So I have 3 different sizes on my screen. I'm going to send that, but I'm going to speed up the video so you don't have to watch the boring part of it cutting. We've already seen it twice. So here we go. Okay, first mistake. It's gonna happen. So my sheet lost its charge during the cut. It came back. I let it go a little bit, and then it totally went off the rails. That auto shut off worked. I pushed the auto shut off immediately, and it worked. So what I'm going to do is I am going to try this again. And that is all you can do. So you can see here, I've got pieces. It's going to happen. I am going to cancel this in the software. Push the reset button. It happened to me. It's going to happen to you. And this is my first few hours with the machine. So I'm simply going to, the electrostatic charge is off. I'm going to take this and I can just wipe this off. Ooh, I should show that. So let's see. That charge is released. It just wipes right off. Okay, now it's going to make the video a little bit longer, but I'm going to try it again, because that is what testing is. I'm going to push that button, make it bright white, make sure it's bright white, give it a second. I'm going to smooth it down. It's going to take it a second to get. Now, when you press that auto stop, you're pressing the power button once, just quickly. It's going to stop your project, but your project is lost, okay? It's just like if you had to turn the machine off, but your project is lost. So let's see. Okay, charge is there. Going to put this back on. New sheet. Position it. And then I'm going to smooth this down. Okay. I'm just checking. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my design just a little bit and see if it'll be successful. So once again, I'll speed this video up and we'll see what happens. Okay, mistakes again. And I'm going to tell you 100% user error right here. Because I think my cut settings are too deep, I'm going to move this housing back, reset the housing. I think the cut settings are too deep. Just judging from what has happened here, the paper has a good charge, but the design I chose is pretty intricate, and I think I need to decrease those cut settings. So I will definitely give an update. I am going to, though, turn the cameras off, and if it works out, I will be back in just a second. Now, I did attempt it several more times. I was not successful, but I do think it's all in a matter of practice and testing and getting it right. I do think this design might be a little bit too intricate at the size I was cutting it, because as you have thin cut lines, keep in mind that that charge cannot be held in place. So I'm going to continue my testing, but I did want to provide the update. And you know, I had those successful cuts in the beginning. It's all a matter of learning and getting used to your new machine. Okay, here was the first cuts that I was able to do on the Curio 2. My first cuts, I did not practice before this, and I only did what I saw that I was shown at Summit. So I was able to show how to use that electrostatic mat and build up the charge. Did all the cuts go perfect? No, and I knew that going into it. I knew I was going to have mistakes. This is going to be a machine that you need to take time to learn and to practice with. Remember, those settings in the Silhouette software are designed for use with a cutting mat. So your material settings may change and you can create a custom setting. There is also the ability to enable IPT, which is also something that I'm going to be testing as well. IPT is a new way that creates a new cut order to hold the pieces in place while an intricate design is being cut. So I will be testing that as well. Make sure to like, subscribe, and click that bell for notifications so you can be notified of future content on the Silhouette Secrets YouTube channel. There is lots of information to share, and we just need to take time to learn the new machines and see how they're going to work. I want to thank you for taking the time to see how my cuts, my first two were great. My next ones, they were user error. So it's going to take time to learn. I'm going to have some fun playing. Have a great day. Thanks for joining me.